10 oddities and color-related facts. Hey everyone, and welcome to our channel. Today we're diving deep into the fascinating world of color. We all know it makes our world beautiful, but color has a surprising amount of mystery and science behind it. From people who can hear colors to dinosaurs with colorful eggs, get ready to have your mind blown. It would be understandable if one believed that color just exists. Still, hues and tones have an enigmatic universe all their own. They manifest themselves as enigmatic animals and unsolvable math problems. The relationship between people and colors is among the most amazing truths and riddles. Green and all the others will never again just sit there, from those who can hear colors to seeing them in the emotions of others. Number 10. Unique homologs utilized red. Red is maybe the first hue that people utilized extensively. Although this fad started in prehistoric times, the vivid color may not be the reason. That came as an extra. It was ocher that made red so universally accessible and comfortable. Find and application of this natural pigment was simple. It clinging to walls and flesh, it never faded. It was not even modern humans who used the clay initially. A collection of 70 ocher pieces discovered at a Homo erectus habitat 285,000 years ago was the oldest find. 200,000 years ago, Neanderthals painted with it as well. A shell containing a concoction of the pigment, fat, and charcoal dating back to 100,000 years was one of the first Homo sapien artifacts containing ocher. And ocher had other uses as well. It served many purposes, including staining tombs, tanning skins, repelling insects, treating skin and medicinal issues, and symbolizing a variety of things. Furthermore, it was a component of glue and plant processing. Ocher was used for a very long time, even by Renaissance and medieval painters. Number 9, the reasons of dark water stains. Water dulls the color of something even though it is colorless. There is some fascinating science underlying this. The composition of the fabric or the wet fabric actually becoming darker have nothing to do with the darkening. Wavelengths manipulating the human eye are the source of this illusion. Light strikes an object and two things happen. The later reflects and absorbs some light in different proportions. The sense of color is produced by wavelengths that refract off of an object and enter the eye again. For instance, everything but the wavelengths of yellow is absorbed by a yellow fabric. The wavelengths being reflected are shaded, and that is what we see. Surfaces that are dry or damp break light differently. As with a water or sweat stain, moisture modifies the light's angle so that more yellow wavelengths are reflected into the cloth rather than onto a person's eyes. The dry surrounding fabric reflects more color back into the viewer's perception, making a wet spot appear darker. Number 8. Colorful mystery crabs. Two-tone mystery is the Indo-Pacific coconut crab. Giant land crabs that come in 3 hues and a penchant for coconuts. White are the newborn crabs. Scientists consider this to be typical as the paleness is associated with their juvenile stage. But as they get older, the crabs alternately turn a vivid blue or red. Nothing worked to figure out why. Some go smurf while others become crimson for no apparent reason. Hundreds of crabs were tested to show that the color variation had nothing to do with location, camouflage, mate attractiveness, particular behavior, gender, or any other physical factor. Being either color or competing had no obvious advantages. Equally as much blue as red was present. Though nobody knows what it is, there must be a very excellent reason why coconut crabs retain both tints. Maybe DNA will provide the answer. Scientists want to eventually identify the genes responsible for each color as well as those associated with the crab's vision, which could indicate whether or not the animals can see red and blue. Number 7. The Enigma of Blue. Though blue was a late bloomer, the human eye is capable of distinguishing around 1 million colors. Scholars studied the Odyssey by Homer in the 1800s. Nothing in the lengthy text mentioned the color blue. Rather, Homer gave the sea odd hues like wine dark. Scholars disassembled scripts in the years that followed from Hindu, Chinese, Icelandic, Arabic, and Hebrew. The word meaning blue was absent. Because they were the only society to know the formula for making blue dye, the ancient Egyptians were the first to employ it. Scientists of today are attempting to determine if the fact that blue is not discussed in many cultures indicates that people are unable to see it. 6 years ago, an intriguing study was published. The Namibian Himba people does not have a word for blue and does not differentiate it from green. On tests, kids had trouble choosing one blue square out of 11 green ones, but they are remarkably good at seeing greens in tones that other people miss. Such studies imply that blue was as common as it is now, but until recently, the human eye was unable to distinguish it as a distinctive hue. Number 6. Green toxic blood. Unusual is the skink of New Guinea. Looks like a typical lizard from the outside. Within, though, almost everything, including the blood, skeleton, muscles, and membranes, is green. Because hemoglobin, the pigment that carries oxygen, is red, blood is often crimson. Biliverdin is a further pigment found in the blood of New Guinea skinks. Biliverdin is created as red blood cells perish, and too much of it masks the red of hemoglobin. Toxic at such high levels, the pigment is removed via mechanisms present in humans and other animals. 2018 saw the publication of a new study that clarified some of the oddities. Building a family tree of more than 50 different Australasian skink species, they found that the green-blooded skinks were unrelated. Accordingly, there was more than one event in the genesis of poisonous blood and tissue. On the contrary, it developed independently in 5 species. Something had to appear in unrelated skinks repeatedly to indicate that the biliverdin dominance was not coincidental. Why the reptiles survive what is basically a biliverdin overdose or what benefits the green blood provides are mysteries to scientists. Number 5. Influence of Troxler. Polymath and physician from Switzerland was Ignaz Troxler. His legacy endures in the strange Troxler effect, even though his name is not well known. Written about in 1804, he was fascinated by colors and objects that vanished from his view. A page filled with gentle pastel hues recently circulated the internet, promoting this disappearing trick. See the picture above. Staring at it nearly magically renders the page blank. The hues come back the instant the observer casts their gaze elsewhere. While acknowledging Troxler's premise that unchanging information eventually disappear from peripheral vision, scientists now know more about the process. Everybody is subject to the Troxler effect every day. Most folks would go crazy without it. The brain minimizes everything it believes to be irrelevant in response to the overabundance of stimuli we experience. Most people therefore forget that their noses are visible and what they are wearing. Because retinal cells acquire no new information, peripheral features fade and take on the hue of the surrounding white, erasing the content of the pastel page. In short, the brain is bored into ignoring this illusion. Number 4. Live on dinosaur colors. Beautifully shaped eggs are produced by many contemporary bird species. The 2 relevant pigments, biliverdin and protoporphyrin, were recently discovered to also be present in the eggs of oviraptors. An oviraptor is a little dinosaur that looks like a bird. Scientists extended the research to learn more. Among the birds they examined were terns, emus, and chicken eggs. They looked to the ancient birds and petrified eggs of 15 Cretaceous species for comparison. What they discovered destroyed the notion that bird eggs' shell colors are a recent invention. More ancient eggs, especially those of Humaniraptor and dinosaurs, showed up to contain the 2 hues. Being the forefathers of all living birds, this is important. Amazingly, patterned and pigmented at the same depth as current eggs were some Humaniraptoran shells. Dinosaurs that chose to protect their eggs on the ground over buried nests most likely evolved the vibrant camouflage. This amazingly implies that colored shells developed millions of years before the birds that laid them. Number 3. Colors in humans. 2018 saw the proof that phrases like green with envy were not only prose. Human faces truly do change color in response to emotion. This blood flow-related chameleon habit is quite subtle. Usually, colors are so pale that other people only detect the person's actual feelings subliminally. The afflicted areas wrap around the nose, chin, cheeks, and eyebrows. Scientists have, for the first time, shown face rainbows thanks to a computer software and an understanding of how people perceive color. Initially appearing as a blue-yellow shadow around the mouth, disgust also tinted the nose and forehead a red-green. Cheeks and temples flushed red with happiness, while the chin turned blue. With a less blue chin and a redder forehead, surprise was oddly similar to happiness. When volunteers saw images of a neutral face, they could usually identify the appropriate emotion when its colors were placed on the image. Other images had the incorrect tones for an emotion, such as cheerful hues on an angry face. Though they were unable to identify what, the volunteers knew something was wrong. Number 2. Hadwiger-Nelson Breakthroughs. Hadwiger-Nelson problem is a peculiar mathematics puzzle. 1950 saw its creation, although it is still unsolved. Simple enough, colored spots joined by lines exist on an infinite plane. How many hues must there be to keep the same tones from overlapping? Mathematicians soon found that a boundless Hadwiger-Nelson plane would only require 4 to 7 colors, shortly after the problem was posed. Then they became mired in mud. Nobody could reduce the figure for decades. An amateur mathematician shocked the math world in 2018 when he released his solution to the problem. In his free time, Aubrey de Grey loves to tackle mathematical puzzles, and he demonstrated that 4 colors were insufficient. The breakthrough came when he fiddled with the 7-pointed and 11-line Moser spindle. Having thrown in some more forms and piled a vast population of spindles, he reduced the quantity by connecting 1,581 points. The graph is thought to be more successful the fewer the points. Mathematicians have since connected 826 dots without any of the 5 colors touching using de Grey's approach. Number 1. Who here colors? 4% or so of people are colorblind's. Synesthesia is the actual name of the disorder. The brain's areas for sight and hearing are shown by scans to activate when someone witnesses the phenomena. About this unexplained talent, scientists know some things. One can instantly picture a hue in their minds when they hear a phrase or sound. Those whose brains are more connected than average between the various senses also experience synesthesia. A research in 2018 made the decision to look into DNA for the solutions. This was a smart concept because synesthesia frequently runs in families. 3 groups, each including a number of members from 3 generations, were selected. Every one of them had the illness in sound color form. Those who have synesthesia complain of overlapping senses. 37 possible explanation gene variations were found via DNA sequencing. Among the biological functions of each, one process jumped out. Axonogenesis was increased at a number of the 37 genes. That makes sense. Axonogenesis wires the developing brain and explains why synesthetic people have more wiring. So that's it for our exploration of the strange and wonderful world of color. I hope you learned something new and maybe even see the world around you in a fresh light. If you have any questions about color or other science mysteries, leave a comment below. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more mind-bending content.